All right, welcome to everyone that's joined us so far. We're going to start in just a couple minutes. All right, we are just about at time, so let's go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm Sally Poprish with Scrum Alliance. And today we are launching the official launch of the Product Owner Personal Improvement Tool. So thank you for joining us for this exciting event. This tool is a free benefit to Scrum Alliance certified Scrum product owners, designed by Scrum Alliance and Comparative Agility. During today's hour-long session, we'll be talking about the development of the tool and its potential for growing your product ownership skills and supporting your professional growth. You'll also see a full demo of the tool today and hear from our volunteers that led the development of this tool. We are so excited to launch this tool today for our product owner community. We feel passionately about supporting the long-term growth of our CSPOs and believe that this tool offers a way to do that. The tool allows you to track your learning and development and also provides direct access to an online network of product owner experts and community members. The Product Owner PI tool was designed by individuals in our own Agile community for individuals in our Agile community. So we trust that this tool will be relevant and valuable to you all. A few housekeeping items before we get started. All webinar participants will be in listen-only mode. At the end of the presentation, we'll have a question and answer session. So please submit your questions in the questions chat box and we'll address them at the end of the presentation. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be shared after the event. We'll also provide instructions for accessing the Product Owner PI tool in a follow-up email. Our speakers today include Jorgen Hesselberg, Jeff Patton, Ken Rubin, Lisa Jordan, and a few additional key volunteers from our community that led the development of the tool. I'd now like to turn it over to Jeff Patton and Ken Rubin, two product owner luminaries and advisors for this initiative. They'll be talking to us about why the product owner personal improvement tool is important for the development of product owners. Thank you all again and welcome.
Hi, I'm Jeff. I get to start. I have to always start with a bit of a history story. I started with Agile development, actually the process extreme programming in 2000. In the year 2001, the term Agile was coined. My job in XP was a customer role. It was in Scrum, a product owner role. And well, my business card said product manager, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and no one did, and there wasn't really a common definition from it. I loved Agile processes, including, and well, XP and Scrum feel so much alike, it's hard to separate them. There's a lot of technical practice in XP, but I looked at the process framework to give a structure, tell us about how to collaborate, but nothing in there told me how to do my job better. I guess I didn't expect that nothing in XP, well, actually in XP, they did tell you how to be a better programmer. But why this tool is important is because what product ownership and what product management has been evolving a lot, especially over the past 20 years. And there's finally a lot of content in here that helps me actually figure out what my job is, not just when to show up at what meetings. Ken, you want to add to that?
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. Welcome, everybody. Glad you could make it today. Ken Rubin here. And actually, I'll take a slightly different approach. My background with this started back in 2008. Mike Cohn and I got together and decided, hey, we want to be able to assess companies and assess their capabilities with agility. So we launched Comparative Agility roughly back in 2008. Just opened up to, it was a free tool, everybody could use it, and we were just trying to understand what was going on better. So you have to understand, I'm a strong believer in this tool and what it's capable of doing, having been affiliated with it since its very beginning. And the latest version, right, the one that is focused on the product owner role is essential, right? It is very specific to that role. It covers 8 different categories that are very relevant to the role of product owner. And it's funny because we were having a discussion earlier about the evolution of the role over time, and that, you know, everybody knows that Scrum started very much with a team focus, but today at scale, right, we're talking about organizations doing this with many teams and large efforts that just simply can't be done with one team. So, you know, the product owner, I mean, in my experience, any company that has produced a truly, you know, unique, delightful product to its customers, you know, providing a real valuable solution to a real need, there was always an empowered, visionary central point of product leadership. And in Scrum today, we call that role product owner. And this tool is really all about how do we look at these 8 different dimensions of this role called product owner, and let you, as the practitioner, get a very good feel for what it's like to be in that role and to, you know, assess yourself, give yourself guidance as to how you can improve your abilities along each of those different 8 dimensions, because they're all critical, right? I mean, the one, I like them all, but I love the one that deals with validate product assumptions. I just think that is just so critical that oftentimes we see organizations that spend an enormous amount of time, you know, they've made an assumption, they believe that it's true, and they haven't really done the work to investigate whether or not it is, and they make these huge bets, and if they're wrong in a profound way. So how well do you validate your assumptions? Are you willing to buy information as a product owner? Are you willing to invest to do that? So I hope you enjoy, right, the results that you get from the tool and use that as one of the inputs into your overall process improvement. So enjoy, folks. Jeff, I don't know if you want to add to that, or
yeah, I'm trying to think if I can add anything good to that. Ken, you're so complete and perfect at this stuff. Maybe the one thing I'm going to add to this is provocative. I'm glad this tool is late. I'm glad it wasn't here 10 or 15 years ago, because what technology and software development is today is nothing like it was 10 or 15 years ago. When the Agile Manifesto was written, we just barely had ubiquitous internet, and we didn't have iPhones, and we didn't have app ecosystems. Back 20 years ago, we bought software in boxes off of shelves, and it wasn't easy or cheap to validate our product assumptions. Today, technology products are ubiquitous. The art, the craft of doing this has evolved a lot over the last 20 years. So I'm glad this tool, it encapsulates a lot of knowledge that's emerged over the past 20 years. It makes it a lot more relevant than it would have been 10, 15 years ago.
Well
That's
said.
all I've got to say.
Well said. So
That was-
maybe back to you.
Yeah, thank you both, Jeff and Ken. That was really insightful. With that, I'd like to now turn it over to Jorgen Hasselberg, co-founder of Comparative Agility and author of Unlocking Agility, and he'll be talking to us about the collaborative effort that it took to build this tool. So Jorgen, over to you.
Thank you so much for that, Solly. And well, really, I just want to try to summarize how this was made. And I was kind of coming up with all sorts of it's kind of done in a Scrum way, or we do Agile in an Agile way. I mean, if I were to summarize how this was made, I think the one term I want to use is love. I know that sounds very hokey, but honestly, this tool was made with love, because those people who are involved here, first of all of them donated their time. These experts, Jeff and Ken, these guys can charge ungodly amounts of money for their time, but they didn't charge a cent for this. Comparative Agility is not taking any money for this. I know Scrum Alliance is doing this completely for their members, and all the members can get access to this tool for free as well. The volunteers did the same thing. One thing that really struck me throughout the work that we did here, and this probably took us about 8 or 9 months in duration, it was that we were continuously collaborating and sharing our love for the craft. What does it mean to be a product owner today? I think Jeff nailed it. It is so different than what it was before, just like Kenny was saying as well. So this is a role that is now extremely complex, but also so interesting and so fun to be part of. So that love and that passion for the role was just one of those energetic things that went through the entire process of creating this tool. So I hope you can see that in the tool itself, that there's a little bit of love in the tool. And I'm just really excited to be sharing this with everyone. So let's not talk about any more talk. Let's show the tool, and let's have Lisa show us how this can help us doing this work.
Well, hello, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are, and welcome to everyone that's joining us from around the world. I am delighted to be able to share this tool for you on behalf of the volunteer group that work together. I am so excited about it being out here for myself as well as for the community. So let's jump in. You guys can see right now I'm on my Scrum Alliance page. I've logged in as myself, and we start here. We just are going to go to our member dashboard, and you guys can see all you need is this CSPO certification. It needs to be current. And here at the bottom of our screen where it says member benefits, you'll see the product owner personal improvement tool. We're going to click on that link. If you haven't used a tool from Comparative Agility or Scrum Alliance before, you will have to create a login for that, but I'm already logged in, so I'm just going to quickly click on that, and it's going to send me right over. All right, so the landing page I land on is going to be a little bit different. When you guys sign in for the first time, you're going to land on this results page, and you won't have any results. I've got a sample survey out here to show you guys later, but this is the screen that you'll land on. And we're just going to start right now and take the surveys. There's a button right up here. I'm going to click on that, and it pulls up the first question, or pulls up the description of our survey. There are 48 questions. It goes really fast. Don't let that scare you off. And start with take the survey. So you guys can see each one of the questions is going to present on its own card, and you'll see a statement at the top. The first question is, I maintain an up-to-date understanding of my organization's strategy. And I am going to choose one of these boxes depending on how true this statement is for me. This tool really is about personal performance improvement. It's not about comparing yourself to a group. It's just about learning and growing over time. So you'll answer this question depending on where you are right now with the role. I'm going to pretend that I'm taking this particular survey as somebody that's been in a product owner role for about 9 months. So by now, I've gotten my feet on the ground. So yes, I agree. I do keep track of what my org strategy is, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. I understand what constitutes value to the business. I have really worked hard on this for my 9 months, so I'm going to say strongly agree. I understand what constitutes value to end users. This one's a little bit tougher because in my pretend imaginary role, perhaps I haven't had a chance yet to get out and work with end users. I don't know how to start there. So I might say neither agree or disagree, or I might even say disagree. And then while I continue through, you guys do not need to hear me answer each one of 48 questions. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, and I'm going to invite Matt to talk a little bit about the survey itself and how it's constructed and the quality behind it. And I'm going to finish taking the survey in the meantime. And Matt, I'm just going to hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lisa. Yeah, I'm Matt Hobrick. I work with the data science team at Comparative Agility. So what we do is kind of help along the way to make sure that we've got high quality survey questions and try to set us up for the best possible results here. So I want to talk just a little bit kind of about how we proceed through this process. And really, if you think about it, an assessment like this is really a measuring tool. It's what we're trying to do is we're trying to measure where we are as individuals, and measuring ourselves, our attitudes, our feelings is challenging. It's a lot more challenging than trying to measure something like how tall you are, or whatever. So it takes this discipline of psychometrics really to kind of help us come up with a series of statements, a series of questions that are going to really probe into these concepts and help us understand really where we're at. And so that's part of my role, is to support that effort. So as we look at this, there's really major steps in the process. The first, and Ken kind of talked about this a little bit, is to identify those major dimensions. What are those 8 major dimensions that we have that really would encapsulate the work of a product owner today? And then as we think about that, or we look at that, we say then, okay, so what are some of the things, or how would we want to measure that? What is the approach we want to take to try to measure that? And you saw, as Lisa was showing, we're using a series of statements, and we're asking you to rate your how strongly you agree with each of those statements. This is in what we call a Likert scale type approach. And you'll see this commonly used, kind of these 5-point or 7-point scales, where you have a strongly disagree on one end, strongly agree on the other, or there's various ways they can be approached. But this is a really common way used in psychometrics to try to kind of approach these questions of how we're measuring feelings or attitudes. And then once we've kind of identified, the dimensions we want to measure and how we want to measure them, then we kind of have to start thinking about topic areas within each of those dimensions. What are some of the topics that we really think are important? So, Ken talked a little bit about validating product assumptions. So, I'm not an expert on the subject matter, but, the kinds of things that we have there are getting at topic areas like knowing how to define an MVP. So what's a way that we could measure that? How could we know that we know how to measure that we know what an MVP is, or that we know how to identify an MVP? So then as we kind of brainstorm those topic areas and come up with what are the major components of that dimension that we really need to measure, then we start to develop statements and come up with some specific wording that we think might work to measure that. And the wording is really important. We have to keep really simple language. We want to try to avoid jargon whenever possible. Certainly try to, keep your audience in mind. Who are the people who are going to be taking this, and try to keep in mind people at any level of knowledge of this. We want to make it as accessible as possible. We want to try to keep it as short and straightforward as possible. We try to keep a balance of the total number of questions that we have in an assessment to try to keep from kind of burning people out as they read through the questions. We wanted to try to use neutral language and keep, not to use kind of trigger words or things that can really evoke strong emotions, can kind of generate bias within the survey. And then try to keep it to one topic per statement. And this is something that we see a lot is folks want to try to kind of wrap a couple different concepts together and measure them all at once. And then that just kind of creates confusion for the person taking the assessment. And so try to keep it to one topic per statement. So these are, seem like basic rules, but these are the kinds of things that we look at as we're looking at supporting the development of an assessment like this one. And then once we get through and kind of have developed our wording, then we do some additional editing, try to make sure we have a consistent voice, especially in this kind of situation where we have a large community working on this, try to get everybody harmonized in terms of the wording and so forth. And then we do testing and practice and see how it works. So, and we get into that data collection phase, and that really allows us to kind of do some validation. But this is the process, and it's one that we found successful over time, and we're really excited to be able to support this effort for the product owner community.
Right.
Lisa, did I give you enough time?
Yeah, you did. Thanks, Matt, for buying
Okay.
me some time. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. So now I'm going to share my screen again, and you guys can see I've got my congratulations here. Great job. I completed my survey, and now I can visit my dashboard. This is where I landed when I first came in. So you guys already saw I've got some results here, and you can see now I've got 2 surveys out here. Oh, it looks like I'm actually regressing and not getting better over time. That's what you get for randomly answering the questions. But you guys can see I've got my results here from my most recent survey. I can go back and revisit my original survey too, just by clicking on that dot. So if you guys want to just keep track over time, you can definitely take a look at that. Well, goodness, it looks like I'm not doing so good here with measuring value delivered. That is probably an area I need to do some work on. So I can look now here at the recommendations, and I see for measure value delivered, it has some recommendations. So the statement I probably answered, I don't agree with. It says I measure customer satisfaction with my product. So let me just expand this out. And you guys can see we've provided some resources here that gives you, we've got articles in some cases they're books, some cases it's videos to watch. Every one of these resources will help learn and build your skills in this particular area. So let's say how to measure customer satisfaction and why it's so important. That sounds great. I can add that now to my personal improvement backlog. And you can see that the recommendation got added to my backlog here. So that is how the recommendations work. And after I visit this one, I can look at this next statement and maybe identify something here as well, how to measure the product value. That gets added. And I can keep going. I can load more recommendations if I want to really build out my personal backlog. I regularly revisit and update my product strategy and respond to changes. Yeah, I think I could do some stuff here. And here is a great elements of an effective product strategy. That seems really smart. I'm going to add that as well. So as you guys can see, there's a lot of things I can do here just in terms of building out my backlog. The other thing I want to show you is the progress over time. So these are the lines, and each one of these represents one of the dimensions that we've covered here. And it shows, how I've either improved or maybe just gotten more honest over time. And you guys can see then the side-by-side results as well. And let me also visit quickly my personal improvement backlog. So I have 6 items here all together. As you complete each one, it'll have a check mark to show that it's finished and that you've visited it and you've completed the work there. But you can still go back and read it again or refer to it again. Each one of these, when you click, it's a live link and it'll take you to that resource. So you can just click right on through and you guys can see it'll switch my screen over and bring up this excellent article, blog post about elements of an effective product strategy. So with that, I would like to actually just refer to some of my volunteer friends. This is one of the most cool things about being a part of this, was meeting everybody from around the world. So first of all, Runa, do you want to talk just briefly about some of the resources and how that work came about?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that was the more challenging part of the work, because we had to make sure that the resources we are providing are actually going to drive you in the right direction. And that meant reading through a lot of books and blogs and watching videos online to secure that that effect. And also we had to go through the whole lot and reduce it down so it wouldn't be too overwhelming. And I was working with Lynn, and she's fantastic on finding resources online. So maybe Lynn, if you would comment.
Well, thank you, Rune. It was such a great experience to be working together with a group of people, and we were all really excited about the topic. And I think when we were first working with coming up with the statements, we had to learn a lot, as Matt had discussed, like keeping things small, having just one concept in each question, and making things be something that a person could rate from kind of always to never, sort of that kind of scale. And that was quite a challenge, even just in the wording. And we thought that was the hard work. But then it got to the resources, and I feel like I really loved working with Runa, because I was out there Googling away, finding stuff and reading it just enough to know, okay, this might be worth it, throwing it in a Google Doc, and then he was picking them up and reading them through them and coming up with which ones he thought were most effective. And we did vice versa as well, but somehow I really did enjoy the searching part of it. I do think one of the hardest things, though, was deciding on a smaller number of things. We didn't want to put 20 resources out there for each measurement, and so it was hard to decide between different ones. But it was also really rewarding to be able to say, well, this one covers these concepts, and this one overlaps here but not here, and that was kind of fun as well. And I look forward to helping curate this going forward as well, to help maintain a good library of information available to product owners on these different concepts.
Right. Thanks, Lynn, so much, and Runa as well. All right, so I just have one more section to share with you guys, and that's this community area. And I think this is so exciting for me, is just to have a community where we can share information. So let's say you've gone through the performance improvement tool and you've gotten some resources, but you're still stuck on something, or maybe you just have a question you want to put out there for the community. This is where you would go to do that. And there's a couple of different ways to post. I'm going to create a new post now just so you guys can see what that looks like. But let's say I want to ask about virtual collaboration tools. And I just put in here favorite virtual collab tools and why. Go. And now you guys can see this post is going to go out. I can address it to the public, so everyone in the community that's participating will see this particular question or post. I can also address it just to experts. There's a small group of people that will be responding to the expert posts. And I can also choose to post anonymously, easy for me to say. So just by clicking on this slider, my post would go out there as an anonymous post. I'm going to leave this one out there for the public because I am really excited about being the first person to start a conversation in our community. And you guys can see we tag things. So if you want to drop a tag on it, you can, related to one of the dimensions that we defined as part of the tool. But this one's just a general interest question. And I'm just going to save it now. And you guys can see it's got my name on it, Lisa Jordan. It is for the public, and it shows my question here. And as soon as you guys get out there and start using this tool, I would love to see your replies. And let me show you quickly how you would do that as well. So you would just click on the reply button here, and you can write your comment in and add a comment. So easy peasy. We'll be really excited to see you guys' answers to my question. And then just so you guys can see, this is what the experts would see as well. If a question came in for the experts, it's visible to me, but when you guys log in, you will not see this particular question, and you can see how anonymous posts come in as well. And the experts might look at this and say, okay, there's a question out here for experts about prioritization techniques, and our team currently is just using loudest voice in the room. How do I improve? And the experts can go in then and add replies and answer back for that question as well. So that is the community area. I'm really excited to collaborate with you guys out in this community area. It's going to be a lot of fun. And now I'm ready to hand it back over to Sally, maybe to talk a little bit about community posting and the community, and wrap up. But enjoy the tool. We had fun making it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that in-depth demo. It gets me excited just seeing it in action and hearing more about it. And I'm really excited for our attendees and CSPOs to start actually using the tool. But I did want to add a little bit more to the community feature of the tool and talk a little bit more about that. I think that's one of the most exciting parts of this tool. It is an online platform where users have direct access to other product owners in the community and also experts in our community. Our experts are our certified Scrum trainers and our certified Agile coaches. So individuals that have been in the field for a very long time, who have been teaching this stuff, who have stories and experience that I think is really necessary for growing and getting personal insight into things that people are experiencing at work and in the field. So the way that you can really interface with this platform is, you can be posting publicly. There's also this kind of anonymous way that you can also just directly talk to the experts if you don't feel comfortable posting something for everyone. You don't need everybody's feedback. You really have a niche question. There's a confidential manner to talk and get insight as well. So that's a little bit about that. Please feel free to go ahead and start posting questions and insight and answering and using that as a way to engage and connect with other product owners in the field. So with that, we're going to spend a little bit of time just digging into a few questions with our volunteers and learning a little bit more about the experience of working on this project, some of the challenges, some of the successes. I think the most wonderful part of this initiative is it's volunteer-led. We had about 20 volunteers from all over the world. So we have a diverse level of experience and insight. And so I think that makes the tool hopefully much more relevant and usable in different scenarios. So we'll go ahead and just dive into a few questions. I'm gonna pick on Ruchika first and ask her, what was it like to be a part of this volunteer group? And can you talk a little bit about that experience for you?
Absolutely. And thank you for asking that question, Sally. It was like being in family and collaborating with some of the greatest minds coming to the table from very different angles too. So it was super interesting, fulfilling, and it was a great experience to know that you can collaborate to give back to the community. And that's what it felt like. I have a lot of gratitude for the experience.
Thank you. And that does warm my heart. I think over this last year, having a place where everyone could come together and connect and continue to learn was really powerful. So thank you for participating. Okay, next question I'm going to ask Runa. What were some of the challenges of being a part of a volunteer effort like this? It's a little bit harder of a question.
Yeah, first, thank you very much. Like Ruchika said, being a group that had never met before, so we needed a couple of minutes just to find out what do we know, what are our skills. We knew everyone was at least a CSP, and it was also interesting because we were very different locations. We came from around the world in our group. Finding a time to meet outside the project meetings were also challenging because we had people from India, from Europe, and from US, and someone were about to go to bed while others were waking up when we had our meetings. That was partly challenging, but also made it very interesting. And to be honest, I'm sad we are done because this was so fun. It was among the most fun things I've been doing. And also sitting in the group work and having like being starstruck because some of these seniors here in this meeting or Roman Pinchley coming into your meeting and starting asking questions. Why did you prioritize this? And why didn't you choose something else? It was also a real fun part of the work. But I think just I see some of the questions in the Q&A that why did we choose these things? I would say we worked as agile teams, and we discussed our way through it and came to conclusions that these are the things we find most valuable. These are the things we believe is most interesting for the personas we had with us into the work, so that we would make sure that these people taking the assessment afterwards would get most benefit out of it. And that's probably been the most challenging part because I want to contribute to the community, and then I want to deliver something of quality. So making sure that what we are delivering is good enough, that was probably the biggest challenge.
Solly, if I may add to that, it was interesting, challenging, and there's a really good side of it too. I'm a mom, and showing up as my authentic self in a very interesting time that the world was going through last year was challenging, and at the same time, it was humbling and growing. Just wanted to add that.
Okay, well, I have goosebumps. Thank you for sharing that. That's for that openness and everyone answering questions. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to ask maybe one more question to the volunteers, and then we're getting a lot of great questions from our attendees. And then I'll just open the floor to anybody who wants to answer. But if any of the volunteers want to answer, what would you say is the most significant benefit that the product owner personal improvement tool can create for the PO community?
I'll answer that. I've been a product owner for quite some time, and I found it really helpful just being a part of the development of this, to think about all the different angles of product ownership. There are certain ones that come really naturally to me that really aren't that hard for me, and that may be where it's easier to lean. But then to be challenged with some other ones that may be not as natural, or my background hasn't naturally led me there. And working with all of the groups, Runa and I were on one group together, but Ruchika and Lisa were on other groups. But at times we would hop in and help each other out. And I thought our topics were really a good challenge to come up with resources for, and then helping out with the other topics, I realized they were all really good, challenging aspects of being a product owner. And I think somebody who uses this tool and takes it seriously will find it's a good way to help challenge yourself to grow as a product owner, and it's a supported way to do that growth.
Yeah, and I felt, Lynn, that it also offers significant value in the fact that not only it gives you somewhat of a common understanding of what the role is, but at the same time, it kind of self-forces you to think outside your box and what you tap into what you hadn't thought about. So it's a great balance that way.
Amazing. All right. I think with that, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Q&A with the attendees because we have a lot of really great questions and I'm excited to get into these. So with this, I'll introduce the question and whoever feels called to answer, please go ahead. But we'll start with this first one. So the question is, I've not worked in the product owner role yet, and I'm currently unemployed transitioning into Scrum Agile generally from healthcare leadership. Will it benefit me to get a baseline survey now without a role to assess from?
I would say yes. There are going to be some questions you're going to not, there's some questions you'll just not have anything to tie it to. You're not going to have a hook to hang it on yet. But for a lot of it, if you think about the role in the abstract, then and actually this whole volunteer experience was forcing us to think about the role in the abstract, which we don't always get to often a chance to do. But if you think about the role in the abstract and how you would fulfill those particular statements, I think it would be very helpful because it will give you some resources that you can read up on, and then you hit the ground running, and you have that plan already in place when you take the reins. So I'd say go ahead and get your baseline going.
And from a personal coaching perspective, might I add that it sounds like there's some subject matter expertise going, given that you come from that domain. So definitely feels like the right direction.
So take the survey, and yeah, I think the beauty is you can see over time once you're in that role how you're growing in those areas that maybe you haven't experienced yet. So that'll be an interesting trend to follow as well. So here's a question about the resources that were selected. What are the selection criteria used by the reviewers or the volunteers to assess any candidate content for inclusion?
Okay, I think I can at least try to answer that. As I said, we were reading through a lot of articles and movies and books that we read or heard about or got recommended for us. And then we had discussions. I remember me and Lisa going through this for hours just to agree on what we would recommend. But at the same time, this is not static. So in the future, there might come a new blog post which is covering much more. And the beauty with this system is that it's able to update the resources. So if some of them becomes obsolete, if the link is broken or whatever happens, then we can replace it with something which is even better. So I think this is like the first iteration on it. And we eat our own dog food, to say it that way. So we will iterate also in the future and adding new and better content.
I think I would add to the team that I worked with had such a diversity of experience. So we had one or two people that had less than a year of experience in the product owner role. We had people that had been working in the product owner role for 10 years plus, and maybe before it was even called a product owner role. And what was nice about it is when we looked at these statements and talked through it, someone would say, you know, this particular book really helped me figure that out, or I saw this article, or when I took my CSPO class for my certification, they shared this video with us. And so we were drawing from our own experience, from things that had helped us learn and grow over time. And hopefully that will help the entire community benefit from, you know, what we've learned and how we learned.
If I could just add one thing that I was really excited about here was that this could have been a tool where we just gave Scrum Alliance resources, but that wasn't the point of the tool. The tool was to provide the best resources we knew of when it comes to becoming a great product owner. So you will see that there's links to SAFe, there's links to scrum.org, there's links to books of great people who we know in the Scrum Alliance or Scrum community, and there's links to books and resources that may not have anything to do directly with Agile or Scrum, but still is useful in this particular context. So I think the diversity of resources here, I think, was pretty great. And I thought that was really awesome.
And my point of view on a lot of it was looking at it from the same perspective as the kind of guidelines that we get, say, if we were going to speak at the Scrum Alliance conferences, which is I was looking for things that weren't sales pitches for consulting firms or for certain tools. You know, just looking for things that really seemed independent, stand on their own, and didn't have an ulterior motive. I did find it very hard at times not to just fill our list of resources with the great articles and books written by Ken and Jeff and Roman, because I knew they didn't want this to be the Ken, Jeff, Roman show. They wanted it to be something bigger than themselves. So I found myself at times having to really kind of weigh, like, I want to put 3 articles from this person in. What's the right one to fit so that it didn't feel that way? But it was fun keeping it balanced. I certainly found a lot of new voices that I hadn't been aware of or been exposed to.
Amazing. Thank you all. This question, I like this one. It says, as product owners or one product owner, whoever's answering, when you developed this product, what are the challenges you faced and how did you overcome them?
I'm going to start with who is our customer. You know, the persona was really, when we very first met my team, so we had, you know, groups within the volunteer group. So when my team met the first time, we really went back and forth on, is this designed for a brand new product owner? Is this designed for somebody that's mid-career? Is this designed for someone who we would consider an expert? And so we always had to keep those different personality types in mind, and it was just setting up our personas was a challenge for us. We understand it's a big community, a very diverse community, and everybody's on their own journey. So I think that for our team, that was getting over that hurdle was a big challenge.
I know we wanted to have a variety of different types of resources, so not just blog posts, but articles and books and videos and podcasts. And so I tend to be very visual centric, so I had to stretch myself and go out and look for things that were more interactive or more video based or podcast based. And but fortunately, actually, I think throughout all of the volunteer group, we had a variety of learning styles, and so people could bring different things in. I put a call out at one point and said, hey, I think I need more videos. You know, can anybody recommend videos around this topic? And then we got some good input.
Lovely. Okay, so we've got a question about Scrum. They say, could you briefly describe how you applied the Scrum process, if you did, when building the tool? What was your MVP, epics, who owned the backlog, and how did you collaborate? Did we use sprints?
I'll answer that one. Yes, we did. We not being full-time dedicated team members, that part was kind of hard, but we did. We had a regular cadence. Solly, I would say, was our Scrum Master. I don't know if you called yourself that, but she had the regular cadence of things going on. She kept track of, you know, here's what we've covered and here's what's coming up next. It was very helpful to have kind of assignments, right? Like we'd get together as a group and we'd talk, and then we'd decide at the end of the meeting what's the next step. And then Solly would capture that. And so a couple times I had to miss one of the large group meetings, but I would get this nice email that said, here's what the next step is, here's what we covered, here's what's going. Did a great job of keeping links in there so that we could get back to our mural board. And And without that cadence, it would have been overwhelming to do this. So that cadence was super helpful. What would any of the other volunteers like?
Yeah, it was cadence. It was also us keeping in touch via outside of cadence sometimes over our collaborative channels. Outside of process, I feel that mindset was really instrumental. You know, I feel we showed up with the values. We were focused on it. That helped. We were courageous about it. Like I said, I showed up on video a couple times with my son peeking in the background. We were open. So I think the values really came through. The mindset was really there outside just the process.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that the person that asked the question mentioned MVP, because that's what you see. It's our first iteration, and we know that this is going to improve over time. Maybe some of our questions won't age well. Maybe we need to add more resources and remove resources. So you're looking at you're looking at the MVP, and we're planning on continuing to improve it over time.
I just want to really briefly just call out Valerio Zanini. He couldn't make it today. I think he's on vacation in Italy. So, but I want to call him out because he was, a facilitator, scrum master, call him whatever you want. He was really helpful in all of this. And it made me also realize how important facilitation is in a job like this. And especially when we're doing remote work, that's not easy. I was sort of a novice when it comes to Miro boards and things, and I think I still am. But to see someone like Valerio and kind of use all the tools, and I was able to sort of take something that can be a little bit tricky to do remotely and make it maybe even more effective at times than it would be in person. To me, that was really cool to see. So big shout out to Valerio Zanini for this.
Absolutely. I felt that every meeting, a different type of way to collaborate virtually was introduced. So I was always really engaged with the process. And I think we all were really impressed with that. So here's another question. Is there a good frequency on how often people should perform the survey evaluation? Monthly, quarterly, after each project? Any insight on that?
I like the idea of after each project. That's a really interesting one because you're going to learn through real life. And so I'm going to think about that one for myself. What other people think?
Yeah, I think.
I think. Sorry.
Go ahead, Miruna.
Yeah, I think it depends how mature you are as in the role. If you feel that you are safe in the role, maybe the frequency can go down to each project or whatever, or 3 months. But I would say if you're new in the role, I wouldn't mind taking it once every fortnight just to get some new informative blogs or whatever to read up, because you will learn constantly, and that's the main thing.
I'll add one thing that a lot of the questions talk about where you stand in relation to your team, in relation to your organization. Man, if you change jobs, if you change teams, it might be a good time to back up and look at where you stand now.
Yeah, I think that I was going to say, however much is necessary for you, because some are going to be more. I think you're right about the feedback loops are important here. So doing it frequently might be good in some sense, but you also have to do the work. When you get these insights, we're not just taking the survey for the purpose of taking a survey. We're doing that because we're then hopefully reading these resources and taking action and actually changing our behavior. So I wouldn't stress on it. I just look at this as sort of a fitness app for you as a product owner, and use it when it makes sense to you. But yeah, do the work.
Okay, so we've got a question about testing. Did you do any user testing before launching the tool with different product owners for feedback and product improvement? And then the second part to that is, do you have any plans for future user testing for post MVP releases?
I guess I can start. I mean, really, the community that you see here are all CSPOs, so we consider them a representative slice of a user community. So a lot of the testing was done with this community. In terms of the MVPs, we will keep releasing new things. I'm not sure what the cadence will be yet, but I think Solly, we already know that the community here will stay together. And we will keep the community together. We'll keep inviting new people. So, you know, I don't know if I'm going to promise a cadence, but I definitely will keep growing and keep updating continuously, because this is not done. This is the beginning.
Yes, and I'll add to that. At Scrum Alliance, we have community advisory teams. So once we had this tool in staging, we were able to share those out and get feedback as well. So we introduced the tool to people outside of this group to get additional perspective and feedback. Okay, here's an interesting question. What do you think about using this tool as an assessment for potential product owner new hires?
Everybody's going to jump on this question.
I don't think that that's a good idea, because I think one of the things we focused on in the tool was having it be a self-assessment, not a competitive assessment, and not having it be something where you compare yourself against other people. The value of the tool is being honest and open with yourself about where you stand and where you're willing to spend more time, like Jorgen said, to do the work. And I think if you used it as a way to test new hires, they'd probably just pick higher scores than what they really have.
I think the correct answer is always strongly agree. And if you were trying to get a job, just checked out on all of them. I think there's a couple of reverse questions, but you'll get those. But yeah, easy to game. You got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah, it's called personal improvement. So I think that's the key here. It's to improve yourself in the role and not to compare yourself to your peers or whatever. It's compare yourself all the time.
So. Sorry, I'm talking over here. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Not to say that employers can't encourage their employees to take the tool for their own self-growth and improvement within the organization, but yeah, maybe it's for that personal kind of experience. There is a question. We answered this one. There actually were a couple questions about the community board asking if there's a way to talk to the experts in the tool and have that be publicly shared, or if all questions to the experts are confidential. And I just wanted to clarify that those can be public as well. When submitting questions, you have the option of selecting whether you want to post publicly or confidentially, and you can select whether you want to post to only the experts or to everybody using the tool. So you're able to share some of that insight with the experts for everyone. Everyone can see those. Okay. Here's a question, and there are a few questions about kind of the future iteration of these tools. But the question is, will this tool be maintained to ensure that links stay active and new material is added?
Yeah, short answer is yes, definitely. And there will be a way for everyone to contribute resources to it. And the way that we're trying to ensure quality is that the expert group will be the ones who ultimately approve a certain resource. But we want this to be crowdsourced so that if anyone sees something and they say, well, this is a great question, I see the resources, but there's something that's even better. We want everyone to be able to contribute new things and keep it alive. But we do want to try to have a little bit of a sort of quality control there. So we have a little bit of a review process before it gets public. But yeah, short answer is our plan is to make this a member benefit for the Scrum Alliance and specifically for the CSPOs. And we think that if we can make this tool valid, reliable, and continuously improving, we think that will be a great resource.
There was one other question or a series of questions talking about case studies or examples or templates for using the tool. And I want to say those aren't out yet because the tool is launched today, but that's really where you all as our CSPOs can play a really impactful role in sharing your successes and challenges with this tool. So when you're, using this tool for yourself with your team and your organization, and, maybe this will be over time, but please share your successes with us. We'll figure out a way to actually collect those stories, but I think that's a very powerful supplemental tool to share with the users of this platform, because it'll just be a great way to show what this tool is capable of, what the potential is, and potentially spark some ideas that maybe wouldn't exist without you all sharing. So for the future, please share with us those case studies, those successes, and we'll figure out a way to actually share those out widely with our community. Okay, we've got time, I think, for one more question and then we'll close out. But the question here is, what is the most standout feature of this tool?
For me,
I'm going to say the resources. I'll say the resources that are available. But go ahead, Lisa Rushika.
I was going to say this is like picking your favorite child, but I am going to say community. I really like the community aspect and being able to interact globally with other people that are performing the product owner role.
I was going to agree with Lisa. I think community is a big aspect of this.
To me, the whole idea of being able to develop over time and to really have an improvement is the one thing that stands out, but it includes the community, the resources, and the statements. So it's like all of it. You have to take it, and then you will just see the beauty.
So essentially the whole tool is wonderful. Please use it and let us know. It's now live in your dashboard. So after this, you can go ahead and visit your membership dashboard, activate the tool, and start using it. And we really, really look forward to getting your feedback and actually hearing about how the community is receiving this. So we are about a minute away from time. So we're going to go ahead and close out today's session. Again, I would really like to thank our wonderful volunteers, all of our amazing speakers today, and all of our attendees for the engagement, the questions, the discussion. Thank you for putting this event together and bringing it to our community. So as a reminder, we'll be sending instructions to actually access the tool in a follow-up email after the event. But just to reiterate, it is now in your membership dashboard. So if you log in through scrumalliance.org, you'll be able to find it there. And we really can't wait to hear what you have to say about the tool. If you're a Scrum Alliance certificate holder, I want to let you know that today's event did count for SCU credit, so you can go ahead and add that. I am also going to share a link right now in the chat. It's a claimable SCU link, so you can actually just click on that link and get automatic credit for attending today's event. So thank you for that. And that's really it. Thank you all again so much for attending today. Have a wonderful rest of your day and good luck with the tool. We're excited to see what happens next.
Thank you, everybody.